Hello everyone, I am filming this video on Saturday, January 29th, 2022. From January 13th through January 23rd, so this past Sunday, I took my two teenagers, my two younger kids, to California for a 10-night trip. We visited several sites in Los Angeles and went to Disneyland. And in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly how much we spent on that trip. My goal for this channel is to help you to enjoy your travels and to travel well, even if you're on a modest budget. If that's something that you're interested in, I would really encourage you to subscribe to the channel. I'm going to have a whole bunch of vlogs coming up from our trip, and everything I talk about that I spent money on in this video is documented in an upcoming vlog. So if you don't want to miss any of those, please be sure that you're subscribed and be sure to turn on the notification bell so you get notified of each new video. Before I start, one thing that I want to say is I think that it's really a shame that so many people believe that it's taboo to talk about money. And not just money for travel, but money with anything. I think we have a real problem in our society with being too hush-hush about talking about how much things cost. The truth is, everybody wants to know how much things cost. Everybody needs to know how much things cost. They need to know if they can afford it. And if we don't talk about money, people have no idea where they stand. If I had been taught more about money when I was growing up, I would probably be in a much better financial position than I am today. I just think that is something that's wrong with our society, that we don't talk about money and how much things cost enough, and we don't teach people enough about money early on. I definitely do not shy away from talking about how much things cost on my channel. I will always be totally straight with you. I will always tell you exactly how much I spent on things, exactly how much things cost, if I got a discount, if there's a way to get it that's less expensive, all of that. I'm very open about all of that on my channel. So if that's something that you appreciate, again, be sure you're subscribed and give me a thumbs up down below if you appreciate videos like this where I talk about how much the costs of travel are. Okay, we flew from Minneapolis to LAX, and then we flew back from Orange County, John Wayne Airport, back to Minneapolis. We were there for 10 nights. We stayed 10 nights in hotel, and we did a number of things while we were there. So I'm going to break down exactly what we spent and how I did based on my preliminary budget. Now, in this video, I talked about what I initially budgeted for our trip in quite a bit of detail. However, in a subsequent video, which I will link up here, and it's near the end of that video, and I do have chapters in that video, so you can skip ahead to it if you want to, I explained that I made some changes to our trip and that the budget amount was now higher because of those changes. I extended it an additional day, and so that made everything just a little bit more expensive because I had one more night in a hotel, longer for parking, longer for the rental car, things like that. You can go back and watch those videos to see where I thought I was going to be ahead of time. But basically, I think I said that I was budgeting in the second video between $8,400 and $8,500 for the trip. I thought that was about what I would be spending. First, I'm going to review the things that I paid for before we left, and this is a correction from my initial budget video. Airfare was about $1,200 for the three of us, so that was about $400 per ticket. Airport parking at the Minneapolis airport where I left my car was $260, and that was exactly what it was. I prepaid my airport parking. I paid for PhotoPass at Disneyland, which I definitely got my money's worth on this. It was $78 for a week-long PhotoPass. And if you don't follow me on Instagram, I encourage you to do that. The link is on my YouTube homepage. We got full value for our PhotoPass because when you get PhotoPass, you get a digital copy of every single photo taken of you while you're at Disneyland or Walt Disney World. And we had my daughter's senior portraits taken by the PhotoPass photographers at Disneyland. 5 different PhotoPass photographers were very excited when she explained to them what she wanted to take really cool, unique, special photos of Megan all over Disney California Adventure Park. So there are some beautiful, I'll insert some right here. Here's a few of the photos that we got that they took of Megan that day. And so we just used, instead of hiring an expensive portrait photographer at home and spending hundreds or thousands of dollars on a photo session, I get all these photos, which are professional photos, really. And I can download them. I've already downloaded them all to my computer and do whatever I want with them. Print them out, frame them, whatever, put them on cards, all of that. I feel like the photo pass was a really great value. And then in addition to those, we also took a whole bunch of family pictures all over the parks and stuff too. So, and you get your on-ride photos, which I think we only got 3. There was on Radiator Springs Racers, on Space Mountain, and the Incredicoaster. I think that's the only 3 places you get on-ride photos now at Disneyland. Okay, so $78 for the photo pass. I paid for travel insurance through Alliance, and that was $81. Didn't have to use it. I don't think I've ever had to use travel insurance yet, but it is important to have it. And then I paid $1,552 in advance of our trip for tickets. And this was tickets to attractions. So the bulk of that was our tickets for Disneyland, which I have written down. Those were $1,320. Then I spent $207 on tickets to the Warner Brothers Studio Tour. And I spent $25 for tickets to the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures. So those 3 things totaled $1,552. So in total for those 5 items, before we even left on the trip, I paid $3,171 for things in advance. Okay, then while we were on the trip, I'm going to tell you each thing, and I'm going to tell you if I was on budget, if I was over budget, or if I was under budget. Okay, checked bags were $180, and I was right on budget. I knew exactly how much the checked bags would cost. Hotels, this was a big one. We had a significant change. In addition to the changes I made before we left, we ended up leaving our intended Disneyland hotel after one night because we were not happy with it. There's going to be videos coming about that, but the hotel that I switched to was not even in comparison so much better, but also was more expensive. And this was a prime example of you get what you pay for. There's going to be more coming up about that in videos in the future, but we stayed at a total of 4 hotels. One right near LAX the first night we got there for one night. We stayed in a hotel, a Hampton Inn and Suites in Glendale for 2 nights. Then we stayed at what was supposed to be our hotel for when we were at Disneyland for just one night. We checked out and we went to a different hotel closer to Disneyland, right across the street, and stayed there for 6 nights. So we stayed at 4 hotels. So originally, I had intended to be spending $2,006 for our hotels, but I ended up spending $2,751 for our hotels. So for that category, my budget, I was over budget. But that was a choice that I made. And I don't think we would have been okay if I hadn't switched us. It would not have worked for us because of the distance to Disneyland, and the hotel itself was not acceptable to us. The rental car, I had budgeted originally $233. We ended up spending $295, and that's because I ended up having it a little bit longer than I originally planned. So I was a little over budget for the rental car. Other transportation. Now, originally I had budgeted $88 for a taxi just to take us to and from the hotel to the Orange County Airport to return the rental car kind of thing. But that's not what we ended up doing. So in total, I spent $119 on other transportation. And what that was 1 taxi ride and 3 Lyft rides. What I ended up doing was I drove our stuff to our hotel at Disneyland, dropped all our bags off, then drove the rental car to Orange County Airport myself, dropped the rental car off, then took a taxi back to the hotel. So that was 1 ride. Then when we realized we didn't want to stay at that hotel, we took a Lyft from that hotel to the other hotel that we switched to. So that was 1 Lyft ride. And then the other 2 Lyft rides were to go to Target because we had too much stuff. Our suitcases were so full when we left, and mine at least was almost overweight for the airline. And so we ended up having to buy another small suitcase, like a carry-on, to put the stuff that we bought in, because we bought quite a bit of clothes, which I'm coming to. And so we would not have had room for it in our suitcases, and we probably would have been overweight. So we went to Target in a Lyft, bought a suitcase, and then took a Lyft back to the hotel again. So that's what the other transportation was. Okay, other parking. I forgot to budget for this. Was $44. And this was in various places that I just wasn't aware I was going to have to pay for parking. We had to pay for parking when we went to the beach. We had to pay for parking at Warner Brothers Studios, which I didn't know. We had to pay for parking, I don't know, a couple other places. But it was $44 in total that we had to pay for other parking, which isn't terrible. Gas, I was under budget. I had expected to pay about $50, and I only spent $29. And I chalked that up to, because I did quite a bit of driving. I will give credit to that to the car. And the fact that we had a very nice, very modern, very fuel-efficient car. And it was one of the ones that shuts itself off every time you stop. So every time we stopped at a stoplight or anything, it shut itself off. A lot of the cars in California did that. It was actually kind of freaky. Because if you're walking by a red light, there's 50 cars piled up there, waiting to go on the red, and it's silent. Because none of the cars are running. It's so weird. I only spent $29 on gas. Okay. A category that I kind of had in mind, but I legitimately sort of also forgot about, was clothing and souvenirs. Now for us, our souvenirs are usually clothing at this point. Now we did get some other stuff. We have a big box sitting over here that the kids haven't opened yet that Warner Brothers shipped to us. Megan bought a snow globe, which you can't take on airplanes. I mean, you can check it, but we didn't have room. It's a big snow globe. And Ben bought a couple Funko Pops. And so we had Warner Brothers ship those, and they're sitting here. They came a couple days ago, and the kids just haven't opened the box yet. Ben got some coasters, some Harry Potter coasters. And the kids got a couple of journals to write in. And other than that, everything we bought was clothes. And so our souvenirs was actually $838. Almost half of that was at the Warner Brothers studio store. We went crazy there. And then the other half was basically at Disneyland. I'm totally fine that I spent that because we need clothes. And so to get clothes from our travels is actually kind of a fun thing for us, especially for the kids because they like wearing them. We get things that are practical. Another example, it was very cold. Once the sun set, and the sun set at 5 o'clock, it was freezing. And we had to have our hoodies every day, and Megan's was not thick enough. The hoodie she brought with her from home was very thin, and it actually has holes in it. So on the last night, she ended up buying a very thick fleece-lined hoodie, and she ended up buying gloves for me. The kids could put their hands in their pockets, but I was using the mobility scooter, and I had to have my hands out to steer and drive. And so my hands were really cold, so Megan bought me some gloves. So be prepared for that. You might have to buy clothing when you're there if you find out the weather's a little different than when you were expecting or whatever. But we spent $838 on clothing and souvenirs. So that was a big over budget thing because we weren't technically planning on that, but it's only because I forgot to include it. Okay, food. I was way under budget. So this kind of made up for the clothing and souvenirs. I had budgeted, I think, almost $1,800 for food, and I only spent $1,238 for food. So over 10, 11 days, that's $120 some a day. For 3 people, that's not bad. That's only $40 per person per day. That's pretty low, actually. We are pretty good about our food spending, and we ate what we wanted. I mean, we got the meals we wanted, and we got snacks. We got Dole Whip twice and popcorn, and when we were hungry, we ate. So it's not like we were denying ourselves food. Genie Plus and the individual lightning lanes. We did use this, and I'm going to have a very thorough, long video coming. If you want to know all about how we used Disney Genie Plus and the individual lightning lanes at Disneyland, I made a multi-day video that I kept adding to and explaining exactly how we used it and how well it worked for us and whether it was worth your money or not. I made that over every day that we were at Disneyland. I kept adding to it each day. And so that video will be coming. So stay tuned because I really put a lot of good information into that video. I had budgeted $300 for those, and we ended up spending $360. So I was pretty close. And actually, I know exactly what the 60 was. The 60 that I went over was going on Rise of the Resistance. Rise of the Resistance was $20 each. So that was $60 right there. So that's where it was. It was an individual lightning lane that I had to buy. If we hadn't done that, we had no chance of going on it at all because the line was always well over an hour and I couldn't wait in a line like that. And then the last thing was the ECV rental for me. I tried to go without it. I did okay when we were in Los Angeles. I mean, I still had to sit down and rest very frequently. I was very thankful for benches, for benches and places to rest because I had to sit down a lot. But I was able to do that okay. And this is coming up too as part of that Genie Plus video, explaining why it was worth it to us. And the main thing for me was, it was two things. One was standing in line. I didn't realize, like, the walking itself wasn't too bad because then I could rest after I walked a while. It was standing in a queue was agony. I had so much trouble standing in line, and it was Jungle Cruise on the third day just did me in. And I almost didn't make it back to the hotel that night. And the other thing was walking back to the hotel at night. Ben and I both had a lot of trouble. It wasn't that far. Megan was fine, probably because she takes her daily walks every day, and she probably had better shoes, at least than me. But I just was in so much pain. That third night, I really thought Megan was going to have to run ahead, get a wheelchair from the hotel, and come back and get me because I could barely walk at all. It was really bad. And so the last 2 days we were at Disneyland, Thursday and Friday, I rented a mobility scooter from Disneyland, and it ended up costing $129. It was $84 something each day, but then they give you $20 back of your deposit when you return the scooter. So I only had it for the 2 days, and I managed the rest of the time, although I was in a significant amount of pain and did have to ice my ankle. Oh, so sorry. The ECV was under budget because I had budgeted $300 for that too. So in total, while we were traveling, I spent a total of $5,983. So in total for the whole trip, $3,171 that I spent before we left, and $5,983 that I spent while we were traveling. The grand total for our trip was $9,154. So I would say I was about $700 over my budget for what I said after I made the changes to the trip. And then the main places for that were the change in the hotel and clothing and souvenirs were the two big over budget places for that. I mean, there were other little things like additional parking, the lift rides, things like that, but they weren't huge. This should make you aware too that it's important to have some buffer, to have a little bit extra, because if you don't have enough and things like that come up, what are you going to do? You're stuck. I did break this down. So 9,154 divided by the 11 days was $832 a day. Now that seems like a lot, but if you count that that's the hotel and everything and all the food, and that breaks down to $277 per person. Honestly, that's in line with what you pay per day on a Disney cruise or on a higher end cruise per day. I mean, you can get cruises for as low as like $100 a day per person, but you're not going to have as nice a cruise, But and then like luxury lines, you can spend like $300-400 a day per person. So this was right in range with what we would have spent for a Disney cruise. And when you think about the fact that a cruise includes your accommodation, your food, all your entertainment and everything, that's what this does. So I feel like we were pretty on par with what a typical Disney vacation would cost. Now, we weren't doing Disney stuff the whole time, but I think that's kind of what you should expect. You can definitely do it cheaper than this, but you're not going to be staying in as nice of a hotel. You're going to be farther away. You won't be able to buy the stuff that we bought, obviously. And maybe you wouldn't be, if you're just going to Disneyland, obviously. Like, you could take the whole LA portion off of of what we did, and that would obviously eliminate a lot of this expense. I should do that, actually. Figure out what just the Disneyland part was. I'll try to do that for you, and I'll put it down in the description or in a pinned comment down below so you can see like just what the Disneyland portion was, because some of the things would have still been the same. We would have still needed our flight. We still would have needed the hotel for that portion, things like that. But I'll try to do that for you and break down if you were just going to Disneyland and you weren't doing the things in Los Angeles that we did. Take away the rental car, things like that. And I'll put that down below for you. I hope that this video was interesting to you. If it was, be sure to give me a thumbs up down below. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. I hope you all have a great day and safe travels.